Started now that it's approximately 12:35. I want to thank everybody for attending. Today's the first of 2026, a lunch learning collaborate meeting. And we got an interesting presentation on external modules today. And before we do get started, I want to make sure I remind everybody that if you have any interesting presentations that you'd like to see, or presentations, like to join us in a presentation to share with our REDCap colleagues, we would love to hear from you. If so, if you would send an email reaching out to REDCap at fsu.edu. All right, as I said, welcome to our meeting. As always, I always like to get started with a few stats and announcements. Okay. Yep. So we're mainly focusing on our ITS REDCap now that we've been migrated most projects over to ITS REDCap from Med REDCap. We have approximately 640 active projects. 204 are in production, and the balance of 236 are in development. A lot of good stuff there. We have approximately 636 users. Institutional users is 513. External users that are supporting in projects is 123. And we currently have Mozio enabled in 9 of those projects. This is an announcement I wanted to mention, seeing as that we do have some people that are working still in Med REDCap because they've submitted an extension to work over there because the activities are too frequent to move it over to ITS. So they've requested an extension. And then the rest of us are over in ITS REDCap. I do want to point out that we've got 2 banners out there. Reddish one is for the Med REDCap, and this is for those people that may be toggling between the 2 instances for one reason or another. And I just want to make sure that you see that on your landing page, homepage. Let's see. Also, if you have moved your projects or project to ITS REDCap and have not notified the REDCap admin team that you're now working over an ITS REDCap, we want to make sure that you let us know so we can disable your Med REDCap same projects over in Med REDCap, because we don't want the accidental double data entry. So if you would send an email to redcap at fsu.edu. And continuing in that same vein, I want to note that we still have approximately 183 production projects and 316 development projects in Med. So if you're not requesting an extension, you need to do so by sending an email to the REDCap mailbox. As always, just want to remind everybody that to make sure that everybody hears all the activities that are being presented. If you would mute until after the presentation, you'll have a Q&A opportunity, and welcome to hear from any questions you might have. Okay, today's presentation is going to be by one of my colleagues in the REDCap admin team, Simi, and she's going to speak about REDCap external modules. And with that, I will unshare and let Simi step forward.
All right, hello, my name is Semi Retta, and I'm giving a presentation about external modules in REDCap. All right, so here's a quick overview of the presentation. We're going to talk about what external modules are, why they're useful, how to add one to a REDCap project, some best practices, and some real-world use cases. All right, so first, what is an external module? So external modules are tools that can be added on top of a REDCap project to grant users additional features that are not standard to REDCap. they are enabled by REDCap administrators on a project by project basis, although you can request an external module for multiple projects if that's what you desire. So to request one, you would submit a ticket to and we will add one onto your project. But keep in mind that not all external modules are supported by FSU REDCap. So for multi-user projects, access can be universal to every user on the project or limited to certain users. So what can external modules do? Well, they can do a lot of things. First and foremost, they can automate processes. So here are some examples of some external modules that can do that. You can auto-populate fields. You can use custom record auto numbering. You can link together multiple projects. So for example, cross-project piping. You can pipe data from one project into another project. Auto record generation. When a survey is filled on one project, you can automatically generate a record in another project. And you can search and populate data from another project. Another thing you can do is add features to surveys. Survey UI tweaks is one of the most common external modules, and it has a whole bundle of features that you can add to surveys. Another external module is Survey Shuffle, which randomizes the order of surveys. So, for example, if you're giving multiple surveys out to people, you want to give them in a random order to each user. Survey Shuffle is how you do that. You can also format different survey questions, and there's several different external modules that can do that. Maps to GPS is one that works with Google Maps, so you can pin a location on a question and it will give you the longitude and latitude. Audio recorder obviously allows respondents to record audio to answer something. This is really useful for projects where you're surveying people with disabilities who maybe have issues using computers. Image map allows you to create multiple choice questions. And instead of different written responses, it allows you to create different pictures for different responses. And Shazam just allows you to format matrices in a variety of different ways. External modules can be used to maintain integrity. So any CAPTCHA creates a CAPTCHA. And you can also use IP encrypt to get an encrypted IP address from each respondent to make sure that they are in the proper area. For example, if you only want to take respondents from the Tallahassee area, that's a good external module to use. And much more. This is just scratching the surface on all the things external modules can do. Okay, so which external modules are supported by ITS FSU? Here's a comprehensive list of every single external module that we have available. I'm not going to read each one by one, but I'm going to send out this PowerPoint to everybody so you can reference this list if you are looking for an external module for your project. Just one thing to note is that the language switcher, while it is still available, it is no longer necessary because REDCap now has a built-in multi-language module that does the exact same thing that the language switcher used to be used for. But the rest of these can be useful for a variety of purposes. All right, how do you use an external module? Well, first and foremost, you check if FSU ITS REDCap supports your desired external module. Go back and check the list on the last slide. You can also submit a request, or I'm sorry, you can next submit a request through the FSU HRS portal. Make sure you include the PID of your project so we know which project to enable it to. Then the external module will be enabled by the administrator. We will let you know when it's enabled. We will reach out to you to notify you when this has happened. If enabled, it will show up under the external modules heading in the left-hand column. Now, once you have an external module, you may need to configure it. Some EMs will not start working until they are configured. So you would just go to the external modules heading in the left-hand column and click the Manage. All EMs enabled for your project will be listed there. So anything that we have already enabled will be listed there. And you can click the Configure button to adjust settings. Here's a screenshot of what exactly that'll look like. It'll say currently enabled module. It'll list everything out. So for example, this is what the survey UI tweaks looks like. And then you can configure it from there. So here are some best practices for using an external module. First and foremost, before downloading an external module, check to see if what you want can be done with built-in REDCap features. While external modules are useful, they do add an extra layer of complexity. And when you add more complexity, you create more room for error. So only add one if you actually need it. Make sure you test your external modules while they're still in development. Again, when you add complexity, there's more room for error. So make sure you test it to see if it's working right. Don't forget to configure settings if necessary. If you are working with other researchers, make sure you adjust user rights. Make sure it's compliant with any IRB requirements. This is especially important if you're working with researchers at other institutions. And of course, if you're having any issues, don't hesitate to submit a request for help. We help people with external modules all the time. All right, so let's go over some real world use cases. These are real projects that are in REDCap by a variety of users and how they use external modules. So project number one, this is the Peel study by PI Angelina Sitton. And the external module she is using is the survey UI tweaks. So she's using survey UI tweaks to hide the reset buttons and to track survey duration to identify real responses. So basically, when someone answers a question, you can no longer reset it to eliminate that answer. And once you submit the survey, it will give you the amount of time somebody spent on each page of your survey. And that's really useful because if you have a survey that requires a long time to fill it out, and you get a response that took 2 seconds to fill it out, you can reasonably assume that this isn't a real response. They just clicked random buttons. And that can be, a cause for throwing out results to avoid corrupting your data. Survey UI tweaks is a really, really common external module. Like I said, it can also be used to change the font size or spacing of surveys, which might not sound like a big deal, but if you're dealing with like a large matrix, that can really make a big impact when it comes to formatting. You can hide or edit default options like the submit button, save or return, next page. You can change the wording of those or get rid of them completely. And you can randomize matrices to avoid like any bias in your data. All right, the next project I'm going to talk about is Keeping It Light 2 by Lisa Haito-Weidman. So this project uses two external modules, the hide submit button and the Orca search module. So this project uses hide submit alongside with branching logic to prevent users from submitting incomplete data to muddy up the data. So how it works is you have a question. Let's say you only want to survey FSU students. So the question says, are you an FSU student? If the person says no, you use branching logic to create a new question with the hide submit action tag on it. And that basically makes the submit button disappear. So somebody who says no to the question, are you an FSU student, cannot submit data, which avoids getting a bunch of answers that you can't use anyway. The Orca search module is another external module that can allow researchers to quickly and easily search through the entire data set. So if you have large data sets, REDCap does have a built-in search feature, but it is very slow. You can't search by certain variable names either. And when you have a large data set, that can be a real hindrance. The Orca search model basically cleans that system up. Here's a screenshot of what the Orca search module looks like. You can see that they have almost 25,000 records. So using the built-in features would not be practical for this. The search module, when you download the external module, shows up in the Add/Edit Records tab. You can choose a field to search with it and search by specific fields, and it tends to work quicker and more efficiently than the built-in features. All right, the third example that I have is actually not a study, it's a repository. It's the FSU Health Research Volunteer Registry. And this uses the hide submit action tags as well as the NED CAPTCHA. So this is trying to get a registry of volunteers, obviously as the title implies, and it also uses a hide submit button with branching logic on its online consent form. So they have a consent form, they ask people if they agree to the terms of the consent form, and if the person says no, then they use the hide submit button to prevent them from submitting the survey and going on to the next survey. If somebody says yes, they are automatically directed to the next survey where they can give their information. And this again prevents people from being able to submit into the registry who have not consented to the terms. It also uses the NED CAPTCHA external module to prevent bot accounts from signing up. And this, I'm assuming you guys know what a CAPTCHA is. So those are the various ways that external modules are used in real life projects and how they can help different types of studies or repositories or anything that you would use REDCap for. Okay, does anybody have any questions? You can put in the chat or you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you.
Great presentation, Simi. I think it was very educational. I like the real life project functions that's using those external modules. Does anybody have any questions for Simi or any of the areas that she mentioned today? All right. Thank you, Simi. Appreciate it. What
Yeah.
I've got, was there a question?
I was just gonna say, let's give the users a couple of minutes in case they want to type something in the chat or the question or the Q&A session.
All right. Well, if you don't get your question at the moment, there'll be another question and answer period after I do a little bit of presentation. I have generated a couple of simple programs just to exemplify what.
Sorry, we have one question.
Oh, good. Okay.
If I have a Qualtrics survey, can the survey link be embedded in REDCap and receive the data in REDCap?
A Qualtrics, repeat that question, please, Alex.
If I have a Qualtrics survey, can the
Yep.
survey link be embedded in REDCap and also receive the data in REDCap as well? So essentially, if I'm understanding it correctly, can you have a Qualtrics survey that basically that is done in Qualtrics and the link can be sent out, and then the data from the Qualtrics survey is sort of automatically dragged in to
Yeah, I don't think it'd be an automatic process. You would probably have to do a data import. If you wanted, I guess you want to do an automatic data link, it would be to the project, but not to the actual data survey. I don't believe that can be done. Unless you did, if it's a public survey, then you probably could send the public link from Qualtrics. As far as getting the data would not automatically get populated into REDCap. It would have to be a data import using the API. Hopefully that answered the question. Thumbs up, yes, no?
I believe so. We have one more question.
Cool.
How do external modules that alter the UI interact with the mobile app or MyCap?
That's usually something that you'll have to decide when you configure the settings. All the external modules that affect the UI, they usually have a bunch of settings when you click configure settings.
Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
That seems to be all for now.
Okay. Well, again, if you have other questions, please jump in at the end of what I'm getting ready to share and ask additional questions if you'd like. What I'd like to do is take a couple of the EMs that Simi had mentioned. One of them is the auto-populate, and the other one is the hide submit. And I've got a couple examples of that. First off, screenshots, and if we have time, I can go into the actual projects to show you how they work. Bear with me. All right, so here's an example that I put together of the auto-populate. This is the EM. Once you're in your project, like Simi was saying, you click on the manage it, and then you could search it and then select it, and then there's a configuration over here. This was a simple one, so there's not much configuration to it at all. And then in this just shows an example of the form name. I actually called it in great detail so everybody knows what this we're presenting. So this is the first part of the form or instrument that we're collecting. And this is just standard form entry. But then there's a other section down here where I point out this auto-populated. And it uses the auto-populate external module plus the action tag to populate the username, and that means the person who's actually logged in. Auto-populate and today's date would be automatically populated once you open this form. And then there's also the date time. There's also, you can use a smart variable with the auto-populate that I'll show you here in a second. I'm going to show you how I configured it. Very simple. For example, in this case, where I've generated the requesting the username, and it's not really requesting it. It is just a placeholder. It uses the username action tag, and it made it read only. Again, the reason why you would want to do this would be maybe for auditing. And typically these questions are hidden. They're not really, I mean, you can keep them on your form, but they're really not necessary that they have to be on the form because they're auto-populate. So once I came into the form, I had to enter in this upper information, but the auto-populate information because of the EM. It populated me, my username, which is the single sign on FSU ID. and it looks like an email, but it is the FSU ID. It populated the date that I opened up this form, and it populated the date and time that I opened up this form. And I just want to show the difference between the using the action tag and using the smart variable. It can grab the same information. Again, typically you would not have this information. You would have it hidden such that you could use it for auditing downstream when you want to do data extraction or data analysis. The other EM I want to highlight was the hide submit. This is mainly used on surveys. It can be used in a form. It's just the result might be a little bit different. If it's on a form, it would be a save and exit or save and continue button. But in a survey, it is a submit button. So again, you notice I got into the management, loaded up this EM into the project. And the form that I called, I'm using is EM hide button demographics. Both of these are demographic examples, very simple forms. So here's the form in the layout. The hide portion, you're going to lean a little bit on the branching logic. And so this is a message. What I'm trying to do now is just show that these fields are required, and until all the questions are populated or answered, then this message will remain there. And notice there is no submit button. Again, so this is the setup of the question and answer, or the message that's going to be up on the form until all the information is reached. This is the branching logic, very simple. Everybody knows branching logic by now, I'm sure, in the REDCap arena. And this is the branching logic I use to enter that activity. So coming into the survey, if you notice, I'm ready to do the data entry. I have this message in there until each one of these fields has been populated. And once I do, you notice that the message goes away. And then I've got the submit button. And that's pretty much what I wanted to present as far as that. I could actually do a live to give you more of a feel instead of just pictures of how it is. But if you got any questions, would like to about Simi's presentation or about some of the points that I just raised up, we'd love to hear from you. So I'll pause a moment. See else. And if you have questions after this, Alex, you got some?
Nope,
Okay.
I don't think we have any questions right now. I don't see any raised hands and nothing in chat or Q&A.
Okay. Well, as Cindy pointed out, we're going to be sharing these slides. And if you have any questions after this meeting, you can always reach out to the REDCap at fsu.edu, and we'll gladly address any questions you have. I'm just going to do a quick look at inside the project that I put together for each one of these. The first one is the auto populate. And so, gotta log in, sorry. There we go. So to give you a layout of the land, as they say, so this is where the management of the external modules are. Clicking on that, as Simi pointed out, and I showed in my slide before, this is where the information, this is how you would search it. If you know that we have it and per Simi's list of all the ones that we support. And then you would enable it. And the configuration she was talking about, this is basic, default configuration. So there's no real technical configuration in it. I just want to go into the design mode for a moment. Again, there's the form. Clicking on that, this is the design mode of the form. I put this information in there. Clicking on one of these that are using the auto-populate. Clicking on it, you notice that just give it a variable name, and the meat of it is this here. The result of what it populates is read only, so it can't be changed. And this is the action tag that is being used. And that's the same with all of these down here. This is a tad different. I'll go into this one for a moment. This is where it's used in the smart variable. Smart variable is similar, but the syntax is a little bit different. In the smart variable, I use a smart variable tag for the username and then set it to default so that it would show up in the data entry field. Again, it's read only. That's all I want to share with that. I guess I could show you the functionality of it. So if I go into here and select a form, a new entry, cancel. You'll see that these are the fields that are that I need to do data entry. And then once the data, and then down below is the fields that I would automatically populate using the auto-populate field, EM. And then when I'm done, I would go ahead and save it, of course, and then that information would be stored in the record. I might even have a example already loaded. No, I don't. But anyway, I showed it in the demo. The other, let me close this for a second. The other one is the hide submit. This is a very good one if you wanted to make sure that users collect all their data or enter in all their data before they hit the submit or save and continue type button if it's on the form. The idea is, if you don't have something like this, REDCap will give you a pop-up message saying that a couple of fields or a field hasn't been entered that is required, but you can still skip over it and save the form with that without that block. There's no real hard block in it. And so this is how you would avoid people submitting forms without the necessary information being collected. So here's the form. All this is the standard same demographics that was on the other form. And I do have this message at the bottom of the form. The branching logic is how I displayed it to you. There it is. And if those conditions are not met, then or are met rather, then that message will continue to be displayed down here. And going into this field here, if you notice, I had the hide submit, and it's gonna hide the submit button if the data has not been entered as expected. And to give you a real function flow of it. So I'm going to go into the form. So here's the survey. Notice the message down here. These are all required fields for this demo. So if I were to pick Mickey Mouse and then a generic number, obviously, and then pick a race, pick who I am. Notice, again, I haven't entered in all the information that's required, but once I click this, that message goes away and the submit has appeared, and then you can submit it and it'll go into our database. All right, so I didn't add it, but if anybody has any questions, we'd love to hear from you. But in the meantime, I just want to remind everybody that if you have a user request, I notice that sometimes we get a technical ticket and they request an account. That's one way to do it. We also have this link here that you don't have to go in the technical ticket system to request an account because it's actually an extra step, and we admin folks would have to send a reply back to you through the ticketing system that you had a request. Either way works for us, which is just want to let you know there's two options there. And for that, I want to thank everybody for your opportunity to attend. And I want to mention that our next meeting would be Wednesday, February 25th, again at 12:30. Right now, we don't have any presenter. We got a couple in mind, but we haven't firmed up the idea of who is going to present and what the topic might be. If anybody's interested in presenting with us or have a project that you would like for us to present in lieu of you, we would welcome that opportunity. Please send REDCap at fsu.edu email, letting us know that you're interested in either sharing your project or sharing your ideas so that we can present your project such as Simi did earlier in her presentation. And Alex, if there's no more hands up or questions, we'll go ahead and say goodbye for today. All right. Well, thank you all and have a good afternoon, I hope. And see you in February. Bye-bye.